let's get started. So let's maybe start with you, Julian, introducing yourself in your studio. Just tell us a few words about it.
Yeah, so I'm Julien Marion. My wife and I own a dance studio here in Richmond, Texas. This month, actually, year 10 for us. And we've been working, doing the studio life together for a little bit of time. We've married 14 years and had a studio for 10 years so far. So most of our life, we've been working together. And we have 6 kids, ages from 12 to 12 weeks. So we do have a long range, of kids. Our studio is just right under the 500 range, um, which is a good, decent size, and about what 25% of our population is competitive kids or company. So that's kind of it's still a good balance. It's not too much, and yeah, we're focused on creating a family atmosphere and
Yeah.
really going on helping kids find their own unique voice so that they can go and be confident when they go out into the world, because we know that a huge percentage of them are not going to be professional dancers,
Yeah.
but we know that we can help them be confident by knowing themselves and being okay, being who they are.
Yeah. Julian, I got your book. So
Look
here
at
it
that.
is. Oh, look at that. So I got your book finally. I'm so happy. I have not really read it through yet, but what about you tell me a little bit, especially from the perspective, how we work with other studios and how this book could be helpful to someone because I find a lot of inspiration in you and your posts and everything you say project and social media in general. I'm very excited to read that book, and I actually looked at the first couple of pages. It sounds very interesting, but for someone who is like a business owner, a studio owner, how would that be helpful?
Yeah, there's so many things inside the book that kind of relevant to that. I mean, the biggest thing, the name of the book is like Get It Out, right? So it's like how to remove fear and unleash the dream from within, which pretty much what that means is that, like, wish I had cards here to show you, but it's like if you're to think of, you have this dream, right? And maybe for I can share my experience real quick. We got a studio for 10 years, right? For probably the first 3 to 4 years, we were not paying ourselves or paying ourselves maybe $2,000,
Hmm.
right? And then we have like 3 kids. Like, this is a very low level, right? Not
Yeah.
one you can, yeah, I worked 3 other jobs, right? Taught higher ed, recruited higher ed, and did the studio work. Like, a lot of energy goes there, right? But there were things, so like the goal was like, hey, can we be fully sustainable with the studio? Like, make a living inside of this space of entrepreneurship, right?
Hmm.
Freedom of time, freedom of income, freedom of decision making, right? But there's something that is like stopping, right? There's something that has to get out of the way. And that is not, and oftentimes is the fear,
Hmm.
right? I think when we talk about, marketing and advertising, it is probably the biggest fear that small businesses have,
Hmm.
because you can blow money so fast,
Yeah.
right? Like magic paper, the magician, they go and it's like playing like like that fast without results.
Yeah.
So it literally can feel like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna spend $500 and get zero. Or people have the PTSD of like, the last time I worked with a person that sounded really good and they gave me this beautiful presentation and they're great speakers and they sold me, they knew exactly my fears, so they really hit on those fears that I had, and I signed up and then I got nothing, and I'm like $2,000 out,
Yeah.
right? Or I'm still paying this credit card because I use a credit card because I had faith, and so there's something stopping you, and
Hmm.
that thing has to be moved out the way before you can get this thing out, and sometimes in the context of entrepreneurship, there's ego,
Hmm.
right, that is there. For me, I remember that moment, like, I left corporate, 2015. Then I got started working on the studio. Then I got a podcast. My podcast got ranked number 4 on iTunes and new and noteworthy. And I was getting like CEOs to reach out, PRs to reach out. And I was just like feeling this high of just like, woo, we're doing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't think of like, hey, you're making, consistent money, and now you're a full-time entrepreneur. That means like you're in that warrior stage. Like you have to hunt to eat, right? There's no farm yet. You got to hunt to eat. Right. Before it was just like there was a farm there and you were working in the farm and the money was coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember this moment, I'm there and I'm working on the podcast and everything. And my wife comes in and, and she says, hey, did you pay the water bill? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at my shoulder. I'm like, what do you mean? Yes, I did. I keep on working. It's like, well, there's no water. And I was just like, what do you mean there's no water? It's like, hold on. And I'm looking at the bank account, to see it. I'm like, oh, it hasn't been paid. I'm like, why hasn't it been paid? Right. Because my attention was like, instead of like the technician work, doing the work, I was not looking at money. And I realized that there was a disconnect inside of our account, so the bills was not paid. Right. And then I looked, I'm like, okay, cool, I'm gonna pay real quick. And it was just like negative 200. So our personal bank account was negative 200. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna Zelle money from studio account to our account. We're just gonna do it real quick, and we're gonna figure that thing out. And I'm looking, I'm like, studio, because of the time that money sometimes takes, right? We're negative 200.
My goodness.
Like I was just right, and I was just at this moment, and I look, and I was just like, how? I was just like, how? I'm somebody with an MBA. I'm somebody that work in higher ed. I taught entrepreneurship to people. Like I know this. I know finance. I know money. I know this thing. How am I negative here and negative here? Right. And I just didn't understand. Right. And so I kind of got this place of like, I was a little bit paralyzed, and, and I started looking at finances, and we hadn't recouped the money that I was making when I work in corporate. And my wife was like, we got to sell the house. Yeah. Right. And my ego was like, I'm not selling the house. She's like, we don't have any other option. I'm like, we're going to borrow money. And, that was my position. We're going to borrow money. Right. Which I think is a lot of time the men option. Right. We're going to borrow money. We can figure out money, borrow money. And, my wife, was stronger than me. And it's like, no, we're going to sell and we're going to rebuild. Right. And so deep inside, I had obviously this thing of ego. I had the fear of how are people going to judge me, right? Because already I left corporate with 3 kids. Yep. Right? I already did. Oh my God, that's stupid. How are you going to leave a corporate job? You have 3 kids. You have a house that you buy when you were like in your early 20s. Like not a lot of people have accomplished that, at your age. And so I had to get those out the way. Then I also had to put the podcast, the speaking, the coaching down. Right. So we sold our house because we had equity. We had $41,000. Now, when you're looking for a house, right? And people ask you, like, say, hey, so do you have a pay stub so I can see how much you make? And you're like, well, see, I'm an entrepreneur, so I kind of just take a draw. So I don't have a pay stub, right? Because we did it, we're just, draw distribution.
Yeah, very different.
So like, right, very different. Nobody wants to have you as a tenant, and you can't even show that you're making consistent money, right? And so what we had to do is like we found a guy, they had a house, and so we gave $21,000 upfront, to be able to secure the house, right, for 1 year, and then we only had about 18,000 left for the rest of the year. 3 kids, $18,000 left. And I had this time, like, I had to, again, get out the way. I put the podcast down, I had to put the speaking down. I had written a book back then. I had to put that book down. I had to book all that stuff that I felt called to do down to really focus on the one thing, which was, the business. And that's the year that we went from 125 student to 250 to 300 to 360, 360 to 399. Like we literally had this happen. Yeah. Right. But I had to get out the way, my ego, the fear of judgment, the thinking that I know everything. Right. Because I understood that there's things, and I had to talk about that in the book. There's things you know, there's things you don't know. And there's things you don't even know you don't know. And the things that you don't even know you don't know. is where most of the growth happens. And that's the direction that you consistently have to go.
Yep.
Right. And so I didn't know what it is to make 7 figures inside of a dance studio. So I had to go to people that are doing it to just talk to them and see, what do you do? What does it sound like? What do you know what I mean? What does it sound like? What does it smell like? What does it look like? Because that person like acts very differently than the person that is like struggling to make ends meet, right?
Yeah.
And it's, you understand, like one of the first things they do is like they have consistent marketing, does not change. They have consistent marketing. They have a team that is there, you know, and they're not doing the technical work all the time.
Yep.
Like they're just not. So if you want to get to that place of like not have to worry about paying bills, not have to worry about, you know, taking vacation, not have to worry about doing spring break and thinking that people are going to leave you, like you have to be able to get all those fears out the way for you to be able to now unleash that dream that you have within. So that's kind of thing in the context of dance studio is very relevant.
Yeah.
You know, and I think the first one is like when you talk about the lies, right? I think it's the first couple pages. Like literally I go right away, it's like, how do you lie to yourself?
Yeah.
How do you lie to others? And if you know,
and I totally resonate with you because my cultural background is also very diverse. I kind of like a world citizen, and I've been living in a few different cultures. I don't even know what I belong to. So I just read a couple of pages of like, yeah, wow, that's totally resonates because you kind of feeling in the society that you live, you kind of asking yourself a question, do I have to fit in? How do I have to fit in? Do I have to look like them and behave the same way? Do I have to stay true to myself but not being understood? That's a good one. Like I really enjoyed reading those a couple of pages in the beginning. Can I ask you, like generally, I don't know, but do you help other businesses like other studio owners or business owners to go through the process? Do you have something like a program for them to go through the process, or are you planning on on launching something? So is there anything?
Right. So I work mainly with like guys, you know, because I have a passion, you know, I have 6 kids, 4 boys, 4 boys, 2 girls. And one thing that I understood like with guys is that guys will suffer in silence more than women would, right? Guys will suffer in silence more than women would. In the US, you know, 1 out of 3 kids under the age of 18 doesn't have a dad at home. 1 out of 5 men suffers from severe anxiety and depression. 1 out of 5, right? Yep. And remember, if you saw the news, right? It was like a couple months back, like Twitch, right? Which was like this amazing soul, amazing energy in the dance industry, you know, committed suicide, shot himself. No. You know, but you would never know in a million years that he was struggling, because he was vibrant, he has his TikTok video, he has a beautiful family. Like you would never know, right, that he was suffering inside, because men oftentimes suffer in silence. And so for me, it's just like, that is like one of my passions, is be able to, you know, to help men get out of burnout, right, and be able to achieve their dream without sacrificing, right? Because you feel like this thing of like, hey, I'm a guy, so therefore I have to do 2 things: protect my family, provide to my family. If I can accomplish those 2 things, we're good. But when you understand, it's just like most of the divorce happened because of the wife said, I'm out, not because of the husband said, I'm out. The wife decided, I'm out because you're not, I don't feel the connection anymore. And since I can do my own work, I can make my own money, I don't need you to provide for me.
Yeah.
Right. And I think I'm good in this world. Like, I don't think this is not a, you know, there's no tigers and anything like that to eat me. Therefore, I think I can protect myself. I have a gun, I can shoot. Yeah. So you're really irrelevant. Right. And so they say I'm out. And I think most guys like believe that if they can accomplish those 2 things, that they're good. But the reality is just like, your business success can never go up if your family is not taken care of. That means your relationship with your wife and your kids. If your relationship with your body are not handled. I can't tell how many times, like when I was in corporate, I would go to those networking events, and I would see business owners there just beat up. Like they just look in bad shape, right? Because they're sacrificing their health for their business success. Like, I have to go to this event, I have to work late, I have to put 80 hours a week in order for my business to succeed, right? Like, I have to consistently do that. And so they're sacrificing their body, they're sacrificing their family, right? And for some of them, they're showing up at church, but they really have like no relationship anymore, because it's just like they're grinding 24/7. And in the American culture, that's kind of like what people do, is just like hustle all the time, Monday to Sunday, Monday to Sunday. Even when you're at home, you're on your computer watching something, but you're doing work. Right? And so you're literally in shackles inside of all those pieces of your life. And you like, why can I not do this? Or why my wife leaving me? Or why my kids want to talk to me? Or why my body is breaking down? And it's just because like you don't have this holistic approach to doing that. And then this is the moment that you hit burnout. And because men, my wife told me that, she's like, the reason I think men are, commit suicide more than women is because they are stronger. They're willing to go and just like, you know what, I'm done. Where a woman might be there and with their emotion, obviously they will still suffer in silence, but men will suffer in silence to the extreme of just like, I'll just take my life because I'm just too much. So that's kind of like my passion, with men. But but I do have businesses, whenever they come to me and just said, hey, I need help with this, whether it's marketing, systems, leadership, in general, or just like self-leadership, yes, I do. But men is like it's like my one thing right now.
No, absolutely. I'm actually very amazed by what you do and what you offer to the world and sharing your experience, because I think it's a very important work. And I know from a personal experience and like general experience, I can feel how many men struggle, and with all the changes in the world and the constant uncertainties and things like that, it's very easy to get lost, to get actually even to get lost in your direction, like what you do, why you do it, who you are, things like that. Like there's a lot of questions that are going on. And as a female, yes, I agree with you, like females just process things differently. And kind of lately, all the push in the years of female independence and all the kind of stuff can dramatically affect the family unit and the relationships. Yeah,
You're like
that's right.
you're one of the best examples. Like you can be your own person. Like, I don't listen. I can do my own thing. Like, I can sell, I can support. I don't really, and I don't necessarily need somebody to protect me, because nowadays it's like, women learn also how to shoot, right?
Yeah.
So it's like this, like, I can protect myself.
Yeah.
And I think it's like you're more willing to go and share your feelings. I'm like, this is how you feel. Where if you ask a man, how do you feel? He's gonna pause, because he doesn't fully know. You know what he's thinking, but he doesn't know like how he's actually feeling about what he's thinking.
No.
Right? And that was like, for me, last year was the biggest year where like I realized that the thing that I need to get out the way was one of this feeling of inferiority, right? Because it talked about like being a citizen of the world, right? Having this immigrant mindset of, like, hey, I'm not from here, and so I have like, when people hear my voice or see me, like they're like, hey, you're not from here, where are you from? Right? And you have like this thing where before I was like, oh man, I want to be like from here, like I want to be like you. Right? Where as I got older, I realized like, no, there's beauty and power inside of like a mixed heritage. There's beauty and power, from if you come from a different country, because you have something unique to bring. Right? And that's why a mentor of mine said it. He said it's called the immigrant's edge. You immigrant to the US, you immigrant to a country. This little thing that's the immigrant's edge, which is, I want to bring value and participate in a high level. I don't want to take. Right? I want to bring value. And I'm willing to work hard to create something that is going to last and bring support, not just for me to take vacation, but I want to create something that's going to bring value, that's going to support other people, so that I can help.
Yeah.
And that's very unique, I think, to immigrant in general. You will see that as a, as something that happens. So for me, it was that piece of thinking, feeling inferior. And it was also about communicating my feelings with my wife. And that's why we took, marriage coaching, so that we can really get to that place of, there's no way I can grow if I don't grow in that space, because my dad didn't teach me that, my mom didn't teach me that, because it was that place of protect, support, but there's the connect, which
Mm.
is like how do you teach like it's okay to have feelings,
Yeah.
instead of toxic masculinity, more this healthy masculinity, understanding kindness, emotion, um, integrity,
Yeah.
empathy, right? Which is like you want to do it, you just don't know how to do it. And to
Mm-hmm.
know, somebody said it before, it's like, not having a coach, it's like going to school without a teacher.
Oh yeah. Go figure, right?
Like, go
So,
figure. Like you
and
need a coach for your body, you need a coach for your relationship, you need a coach for your business. Early on, I got a coach for the studio.
mhm.
Early on, 2015, got a
Oh
coach.
wow, that's great. Yeah,
And,
awesome. So
scale
many are missing that mark. Like, I mean,
this.
people come to me, I feel they have never even investigated that they they need to talk to
Listen,
someone more experienced.
I went like this, but it's been an escalation, right? I went from $9.99 for 3 months. That was the first
Mm-hmm.
coaching program I've ever done with a business coach. And I realized, like, oh my God, even though I have an MBA and I have a graduate marketing certificate, I don't know nothing of the day-to-day of business ownership.
Mm-hmm.
Not the business plan and the spreadsheet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about the day-to-day. What activities you actually need to do as a business owner.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's very different.
It
There's so
is.
many businesses that have no clue. It's like, I'm just showing up and just doing. I'm like, but what actually you need to do,
Yeah.
right? And that was like, felt like a million. Like
And
9.99 felt like a million at that
mm-hmm.
time. Because like, we never spent a grand. This is 90 days. What exactly did we do? And then we went to 250 with somebody instead of our niche. They went to 500. Then we went to 6.99. They went to a grand. Then had
Mm-hmm.
another coach for finance at 250. Then I joined another group that was like 25K for a year. Like, there's been like incremental.
Ascending ladder. Yeah, you gotta go through the process. I totally agree with you because I'm MBA. I've been working for like global agencies. I've been teaching in the university like marketing lecturer for a number of years. I did nothing. I did know nothing about like how to actually run a business, although I did know a lot about like all the higher end stuff. But end of the day, the day-to-day operations is completely different, and I had to relearn so many things and pay for coaches, and my jaw dropped several times when I was like, wow, yeah, no, I didn't know that. So I had to be open to all the new ideas and everything that I didn't know what I didn't know, like you say.
Yeah, I mean
uh,
that's the thing, right? Like a coach does that. It's like new ideas, new perspective, different information, right? So like you might come in with like a clear plan on like, hey, I know I have a gap here, therefore there's things I know I don't know, and this is what I'm going for. The things I don't know. Then you get in, you're like, oh my gosh, there's things I didn't even know existed.
mhm.
Like I didn't even know about this AI thing. Like, how does this thing crazy? And how is it going to affect what I'm doing? And right, like, but you, if you were not exposed, and again, like you and I have been like so many different places in the world, we've been exposed to, I think, more than 90% of the people,
Mhm.
right? So therefore, like you have a very broad view of the world and the perspective of
Exactly.
how it work,
Mhm.
and you can see personalities and start to like see that because people, although we're unique and different, we're very similar.
Yeah.
You've lived long enough, you can start to see buckets, right? You can start to see buckets, and you can start to see who's lying because you can catch it super fast, right? Might be different color, different language, but I know this vibration.
Yeah.
I can't explain what it is. I just know what this vibration feels like, and that's why when you're not connected, it's just like I know this vibration, and it's different. And I'm like, and that's the reason I'm willing to go, and give it,
Mhm.
a try because numbers make sense, but this vibration makes sense, and I'm
Yes.
familiar. I can pinpoint what it is, but I'm familiar with this vibration.
Mhm.
And I know it might sound weird for people, but it's very unique, right? It's
Yeah,
almost
you
like
start
this,
you start recognizing it. Yeah, the
right?
experience tells you that. Um, Julian, can I just ask you, if someone wants to like just to know a little bit more about what you do, where can they like buy the book, listen to the podcast? Where can they find that information?
Right, on julianmarion.org, and it's Julian with an E. So it's
Mm-hmm.
JulianMarion.org. And you have it, you have everything on there, the podcast, the book, I have a course that is launching. And so all that, can be on there. And if you're a guy,
Mm-hmm.
you need to reach out to me because you know, every guy needs to be able to have a coach. It needs to be able to have a brotherhood, you know,
Yep.
where they can be honest about all their emotion,
Mm-hmm.
because guys will sedate so that they don't have to face the emotion that they have inside of them, or will hide, or will suffer in silence. So you need to be able, if you don't have a group that has nothing to do with church, like, you need to reach out to somebody. If you don't have somebody, you can reach out to me, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, I'll talk to you, you know, just to connect you, you know, with the right people.